Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us. My name is Mark Bittner, Director of Data and Technology here at Plan RBA. This is our next meeting of the Middle James 3 Regional Planning Unit. You may have noticed, but if not, just so you know, we are recording this meeting. Once that recording is compiled, I will be sure to post it for others to watch who may not have been able to attend today. In the interest of time, I'm not going to ask everyone to introduce themselves. If anybody has a question along the way, feel free to speak up, put it in the chat, or raise your hand. I will do my best to monitor those. But again, I'm not going to ask each of you to introduce yourselves today. Let me share my screen so we can get into today's agenda. And maybe you saw this, but I added it earlier this morning to the meeting agenda. It is what we're going to go through today. I think we all know why we're here, which is for regional water supply planning. I will quickly talk about that. And you may have noticed I have linked things on the agenda to relevant information. Again, every locality in Virginia is required to be part of a regional planning unit. That's why you're here. And the state is requiring those regional planning units to produce a water supply plan for its area prior to October 9th of 2029. Again, that's why all of us are here today. So far, we've been working on this since last year. There has been some work done. We have set up this SharePoint site here, which if you are a member of our group, you should have access to. That represents our regional planning unit. We have formed a steering committee, and that spreadsheet is available to you on SharePoint, and it looks like this. I always make sure this is kept up to date as best as I can. I have seen some names in today's meeting that I don't believe are yet part of the steering committee. I'm going to go through all of it, add those names that may be missing, and make sure you have access to the SharePoint. Last August, we did hold a kickoff meeting that was recorded and posted on the SharePoint site there. And we also collected a number of existing water supply plans. Again, you can look through that here. We also have a set of documents which are available to you as well. Before I get into what this current phase of water supply planning is about, I did want to talk about an email that Virginia DEQ sent out recently that I forwarded to everyone. It concerns the water withdrawal database. I don't claim to be an expert on this data. I'm hoping that all of you know more about it than I do. But DEQ has asked every locality to review this. And they have also said if you have any questions about it, to please submit those by February 25th. And there is an online link to submit questions concerning that. You are more than welcome to send any information you have to DEQ directly. However, if you want to send it to me first, I can forward it. It doesn't matter to me. However, again, since this is not my area of expertise, you may or may not want me to be the middleman on this, but that's totally up to you. But if you have any questions about the water withdrawal database and getting information back to DEQ, please feel free to reach out. All right, so let me talk about where we are right now. This current phase of water supply planning runs from January 1st to June 1st of this year. I've sent this out before, but this is the actual agreement that Plan RBA signed with DEQ to do this current round of work. I'm not going to go through it in detail, but what I am going to do is talk about what is required during this phase. And there are three main aspects. The first is to convene a meeting of the RPU, which we are doing right now. So that will be the completion of one component of what needs to be done. Second item we're going to complete is requesting cost estimates from firms to complete the final water supply plan due in October of 2029. We have here at Plan RVA an on-call consultant bench, which is linked right there. And it looks like this. We plan on using that to get cost estimates, hopefully. Again, this is not a full-blown RFP. We're basically asking them, or will be asking them shortly after this meeting, to please tell us how much this type of water supply plan may cost. In the agenda on page 2 is a table. These are all the firms in the on-call bench. The column to the right indicates that they have specifically said they do water supply planning. Now, there is one minor little exception. If you look at our actual on-call database right here, and you look at Dewberry, you will not see water supply planning listed. However, in previous conversations with our RPU, it was made clear that Dewberry does in fact do water supply planning, so I put a yes next to their name as well. If there are any other firms or names that steering committee members think perhaps we should contact, please let me know. We are happy to consider that as well. The third component required during this time is to develop a cost sharing matrix. And I want to stress, and I've said this before, we are not required to finalize or agree on any cost sharing matrix during this period. This is the ideas and discussion phase, in my view, to begin perhaps formulating an agreement on cost sharing. The reason being, we do not know if the state may be supplying funds for us to do the full water supply. I will get more into that in just a few minutes. But this is more about getting prepared for the eventuality that the cost of this plan will have to be borne by our localities. And we wanted to start discussing how might we do that. I have put together 3 possible scenarios, none of which are set in stone, none of which have been voted on in any way. But again, they can start the discussion. In the agenda, I included, starting on page 3, is one possible way of doing it, strictly by 2020 census population figures. These are based on an estimate that I just made up, so to speak. I chose a nice round number of $300,000. I also chose a number that I think maybe was slightly high, simply so that we don't perhaps experience sticker shock down the road. So again, let's assume the cost of this plan would be $300,000. Plan RVA would have an administration fee. I put $15,000. What that might be at the time it's done, I can't exactly say. But the total under this scenario, $315,000. When you add up the population of all of our localities, do a percentage split, you can see the end result right here. A second possible scenario is mostly based on population figures, but it also requires a minimum fee Basically, every locality would be required to pay some minimum amount. Again, a nice round number I chose of $5,000. What a minimum amount may or may not be in the future is certainly open to debate. But under this scenario, you would see that Amelia, Charles City, Colonial Heights, and Cumberland would be required to pay that $5,000 minimum fee, which would be slightly above what they would pay under the first scenario. With that done, and I'm happy to share the details of my calculations with anyone. But basically, I removed those 4 localities from population percentage calculations. I then added up the population of the remaining localities, which is this number here. I then did a percentage split of that. And then I applied the percentages to the total, but that total would be 295,000 because we would be starting with 20,000 from these 4 smaller localities that would go towards the total. So again, I'm not going to bore anybody with my math, but if anyone has more in-depth questions, I am certainly happy to discuss it. A third scenario I outlined, and again, this may not be my area of expertise, but I did locate an online database compiled by USGS for water usage. And at the bottom here is a couple of links where I found this information. I don't claim to be an expert on it. I did my best to read through and understand. And I downloaded for each locality data from calendar year 2020, which I reference right here. It is the average amount of water withdrawn, as I understand it, millions of gallons per day. And then using those figures, I added them up right here. I did a percentage split, and these were the resultant costs. Again, 3 possible ways to do this, none of which have been decided upon. We are just now beginning the discussion. Whether or not our localities will be required to pay in full, I can't yet answer, but we have begun getting that ball rolling. I am certainly open to listening to any other ways to do this, and that's part of why we're here in this meeting. But again, just 3 possible ways it could be achieved. Are there any questions about these options or my methods or anything that you are looking at right now? Okay.
I have a question.
Mhm.
This is Elizabeth McDonald from Goochland County. What is the source of, oh, I see it's actually attached there. I was going to ask the source of these million gallon per day values.
Yes, USGS, which those links go here. Again, this is a pretty extensive and complex database. I think I found what I thought was the most appropriate data, but anyone who knows more about this information than me, please feel free to point me in the right direction. And then there's also the second link, which provides metadata or more detailed information about what this data actually is. But it's USGS right there. All right, I see somebody else. Okay. So let me head back to the agenda. Again, we are working this current phase that runs through June 1st. Assuming there's going to be a next phase, let me check the chat here real quick. 1 second. Okay. We are monitoring any potential future funding that may come from the state of Virginia. As you know, the General Assembly is in session. We try to, yeah, somebody, I think I see Michael Larson raising his
Yeah.
hand. Do you have a question,
Yeah,
Michael?
yes, it's Mike with Chesterfield, and I just had more of a comment. Based on our experience with doing various type of similar level plans within just within Chesterfield, I think that $300,000 number is exceptionally low.
Okay.
I think it's going to be more like $1 million,
Oh,
and that's just throwing, not shooting from the hips. And I just wanted to point
well,
people.
thank you. Again,
I think that's just my guesstimate on that, and I think I'd hate to see people thinking it's going to be that much lower than what it is.
well, thank you. I appreciate that very much. What I can do, I can take that $1 million number and redo all the figures in the tables and share that with the committee. Again, I have not done this work before. I can't tell you how much it may or may not cost, but getting that information from you, I think is very valuable. All right, so we are monitoring what is happening at the General Assembly right now. How that may ultimately shake out, we're not sure. I have seen a couple of proposals. However, with the numbers or the amount of funding that they are talking about, to me, it continues this trend of what I describe as drip funding, for a little bit of admin work here and there. I don't see what I would term significant numbers or amounts of dollars that would pay for all or a big chunk of a final water supply plant. But again, we will continue to monitor that. If anybody else gets wind of anything along those lines, please feel free to send it to me, and we will take note. We're going to prepare for whatever the next round or grant application will be. We will continue developing and perhaps refining our cost sharing matrix. And if the committee, the RPU has anything else it thinks we should be doing, please feel free to share that with us. So let me go ahead and stop sharing and just ask, are there any other questions, comments, or any other items perhaps we need to be aware of moving forward from this point? All right. Well, again, I really appreciate it. I have nothing else on my agenda. I will make sure the steering committee list is updated to the best of my ability. I will update the numbers to use the $1 million figure. But in the meantime, if anybody has any questions, feel free to reach out at any point. If you can't get into the SharePoint.
I do have one
Yeah.
other question. It appears several of the links in the agenda do not work. Says the link is only available to internal users,
Oh, okay.
like the linked files and whatnot.
Okay, so that would mean that it's coming from SharePoint, our SharePoint site, which either I need to make sure you have access to it, or you may not be logged into Microsoft in the right way at the moment to get it.
Okay, I can connect with you separately on that.
Yeah, that's not a problem. Yeah, that'd be easier. Just contact me directly and we can make sure you get access to everything. Okay. Well, again, I don't want to take up any more time than I have to. I very much appreciate you all attending. If you have any questions, please contact me at any time. Otherwise, thank you very much, and the meeting is adjourned.